consider him there. Do you think he can challenge Adams for the wide receiver one, finish? Do you see him as the clear wide receiver one? What do you think?
Um, so this will probably go up before those videos, but like content is king, right? So I'm gonna make a video saying this is why Stephon Diggs is the wide receiver one. This is why, and I'm gonna go through like all of them, and like it's like oh they're here. So like the answer is Tyreek can challenge, and he has a decent argument. I mean it's not the greatest, but he has a decent argument. Oh my god, it is thundering here in Elkhart, Indiana. Oh my god. Anyways, um, he he's gonna score a bunch from different ways. He's probably gonna have a 100 rushing yards and a couple TDs there, maybe a punt return touchdown. His touchdown floor is higher than anybody besides Devontae Adams, and it might be as high because I mean he's scoring in so many different ways. Um, with no Sammy Watkins, he could see a higher target share. He could go from like 23 to I think he had a 24 last year, but I mean if he gets like 26, like 27, I mean that is just like that's just crazy volume from Patrick Mahomes. So what you're really paying for Tyreek is a relatively high floor because he is the option on this best offense. A very high touchdown floor. I mean he's a great pick. I still prefer Adams. Spoiler alert, but I mean I can see why you would do that. What about you?
I okay. I have Hill as my number two
Okay,
wide receiver, one spot ahead of Adams.
me too.
Um, Adams, I think, is going to have a great season again. 1,400 yards and 12 touchdowns for a massive point total there at the end of the year. But that's with a year like that, he has regressed.
Yeah,
So I think he comes back down to earth a little bit. Hill still has room to grow after what we saw from him last year. I think if he has just a couple more of those stupid games, it'll really just propel him to an easy wide receiver two behind Calvin Ridley.
behind Calvin Ridley.
Yeah. So I have
Wow.
wide receiver one for me is Calvin Ridley. I think and my hot take on Calvin Ridley is I think he sets a record this year, and the record I think he sets is I don't know what it is, but however many games in a row with 100 yards and a score, he's gonna break it.
You're lying. 100
That's
yards and
my
a score.
call for Calvin. 100 yards and a score, games in a row.
Oh my, dude, please elaborate, cause you were breaking it down in the group chat, and I was kind of following, but now that I hear that, like, I need to hear the reasoning, cause that is that's incredible.
So I think Adams is like kind of a lock for 1,412.
Yeah.
I'm projecting Ridley to 1,700 yards
1,700 yards.
and 17 scores. Because outside of him and Pitts, it's it.
I own Calvin
The
Ridley.
thing about Ridley is those one scores are there's going to be multiple two score games mixed in there because that's just what he does. He's so good in the red zone, and
Yeah.
like turning people around and making it easy for Matt Ryan to throw a touchdown. That's why he was getting touchdowns over Julio Jones.
Yep.
Julio is a great wide receiver,
Yeah.
but Calvin Ridley is a great wide receiver himself. And
People
they're both totally different.
people forget he was a prolific TD scorer early in his career, and that was the knock on him was, oh wait, can he do anything besides score touchdowns? And then last year he proved right, and like last year he proved that he could. He is more than that. And so if you put him together, I mean, if you put together his elite yards from last year and his early career touchdown proficiency, like this guy has a crazy ceiling. Like it's insane.
Yeah, Ridley is he's like my dark horse to just kind of blow up and surprise everybody and just be that clear-cut wide receiver one this year.
So
Devontae is going to be really great, but he's also got the toughest schedule of everyone at the top.
yeah,
Ridley has the easiest.
what
Uh,
wow.
And then Hill and Hopkins are in the middle, and so is Diggs.
Yeah.
They're all kind of like in the middle as far as strength of schedule goes.
Right.
Diggs is my 5. Hopkins is my 4.
Okay.
Hop is just like, I think him and Diggs are very similar when it comes to like volume. They're both going to see a ton on a heavy passing volume team. Good quarterbacks that both run. So I think they're both going to be a little light in the touchdowns. They'll be heavy in yardage and catches, but that puts them at 4 and 5 for me.
Is there? This is totally unrelated, but is there a safer pick in fantasy than Hop? I don't know that there is.
No, who was the one that we were saying was really safe? He would be in the same boat, though. You know.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, he's gonna get a bunch of targets from a good quarterback, and he's gonna be efficient with them because he's good. I mean, there's not much else to it, you know. And I mean, in the second round, I mean, you know what I'm saying? You can't go wrong.
It was Waller, by the way.
Yeah, I was gonna say it, but I didn't think it. So wow. So you have Ridley as number 1 overall. So you're picking at 9. You're looking at Eckler there.
Yeah.
Is Ridley gonna get back to you? You think?
Ridley has been my second round pick every single mock I've done.
Really?
I get him every single time.
He's a steal there, by the way. Like,
Yeah.
even from like my perspective of like I haven't been wide receiver before. I take him there all the time because like anything like I take him ahead of a guy like Chubb, ahead of a guy like maybe Najee Harris, just like those backs that don't have a crazy high ceiling because of their like of their pass catching or their offense or whatever. Like Ridley, I mean he's just a French first round pick going in the second round, and like there's no other way to put it. So
yeah, I take him every time in the second round there, and it's really a perfect pick because whether he winds up my wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2, if I happen to go with Adams or Hill in the first round, it's really perfect because he can be the wide receiver 1 for you and be an anchor there. But if you have him as your wide receiver 2 to pair with one of those other 2 guys, you've really front-loaded the wide receiver position for your team.
Yeah.
And you've created a massive ceiling that you can't do with other wide receiver pairs.
Exactly.
So that's kind of those 4 guys. If you can somehow get 2 of them on your team, I'm totally okay with that and skipping running back in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, and that is the number one thing that I point to when I'm looking at a team. So I keep referencing my home league, but it just works out well. I drafted Adams, and this is a 14-team league. I drafted Adams at 8, then went back to Ridley, then back to CeeDee Lamb, and like even excluding CeeDee, when you go Adams Ridley, I could have gone Adams, like he wasn't there, but like Najee Harris is like in that range. Someone really reached for like Miles Sanders. I mean, there's backs there that simply have cap ceilings. Like there isn't really a world where Najee Harris gets to 20 points per game because the offense is so bad. Like, but when you go receiver and then get another receiver like Calvin Ridley, his ceiling is not capped by any means because he's still in the tier 1 of receivers when you're looking at a tier 2 running back. So like your ultimate team ceiling, if you can hit on your first 2 picks, like you're not losing games. I mean,
Right.
you're not losing because you have such a high point share of your top, it's so hard to lose at that point, and
Right.
and that's why you take a Ridley over a tier 2 back because your ceiling for your team is just exponentially higher. I mean, it's great, you know.
Ridley's like season end point total should easily break 300
Wow.
in PPR setting, like easily like 310, where even Nick Chubb
Yeah.
isn't gonna break 300 points.
No.
So if you look at it from that perspective and you front load on wide receiver in those front 2 picks and you get yourself 650 points between Adams and Ridley,
And it's possible.
you can go you can go running back after those 2 guys for the next 4 or 5 picks,
Mm-hmm.
and I promise you will feel good with at least 2 guys a week. out of those 4 to 5.
You and like you can eat like 8 to 12 points per game from Michael Carter, from Naheem Hines, from Damian Harris. And if you're getting these crazy blow up weeks, it doesn't matter because as long as you're not getting zeros at your running back, you're not going to lose because
Right.
you can't possibly lose when you have two players like on your team scoring 20 points per game. Like it's really hard. That are not quarterbacks, by the way. Like it's
Right.
it's so hard to lose when you're getting 65 points from Devontae Adams, Calvin Ridley, and your quarterback. Like that is enough points to beat the worst team in your league every week. You know what I'm saying? Like it's incredible. It really is.
And that's the strategy behind it. It is going for that max ceiling every week.
Yeah.
It's not about the floor. You're going for the ceiling.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. So, you're obviously very high on Ridley. So your ranks, if I'm not mistaken, are Ridley, then Tyreek, then Adams, then Hop, then Diggs, right?
Diggs. Yes.
Okay. Why is Diggs a little bit lower for you than most people would be?
I just think he can't pass those other guys.
Yeah.
I think and maybe it's because I really like Gabriel Davis.
Possible.
I think that Gabriel Davis is gonna be. He could. If Gabriel Davis gets to 10 touchdowns, I wouldn't be surprised.
Last year he was at what, 6 or 8?
I think he was pretty high.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was. I think it could have been more.
Yeah.
Honestly. So the point is, Gabriel Davis is really good and sneaky good.
Yeah.
And is really good in the red zone. So I think teams are gonna just quickly double team Diggs in the red zone, and Gabriel Davis is gonna take advantage of that every time and score, and then it's over, and then that touchdown is gone. So he's gonna lose out on touchdown volume, and then with that, I don't know, like he's one that could easily outproduce what I think he will, but I just find the other 4 guys to have a little bit higher ceiling. And,
yeah.
You know, they could all finish within 20 points of each other.
And this is something that I think some fantasy gamers, I don't like WhatsApp gamers, but like some fantasy people, some people that play fantasy that are newer to this or don't really understand the concept, they could get confused. So when you say your rankings, you're like, Ridley has this crazy ceiling, and I agree, by the way. He has this crazy, and he's my wide receiver 1. It's like, okay, but you're getting him in the second round. It's like, why didn't you take him in the first round? And like, you like understanding that, and this is like so important that people don't get. You understanding that you are higher than most people on Calvin Ridley doesn't mean that you should take him where you have him ranked, because you can get him later. So you're getting your wide receiver 1 and Austin Eckler, not your wide receiver 1 and Najee Harris. You know, like if you know that you're higher on a player, you don't have to reach for him necessarily. You just need to know what's happening in your league and who else is targeting that player. Because when you're sick and you want Ridley, you know that you probably don't need to take a top 12 pick on him, because he'll be there later. And at that point, your team is looking great. But if you would have reached on Ridley at pick 9, reached at pick 9, then it's just that much less appealing, you know?
That's why I feel it's good practice to create your own rankings when
Yeah.
you're going to draft. Just because then you know where you stand, and when you're looking at the board on Yahoo or ESPN or CBS or whatever, you know where you stand in comparison to what you're seeing. And then when people talk about drafting value, that's what it is. It's taking Ridley in the second round when you know he'll last,
Yeah.
and not reaching on him as your first pick because you really think that that's where he should go.
Yeah.
If you take him at his ADP, even though you feel he's going to finish higher, that's what we call value.
Exactly. Yep. So you can go.
Go ahead. I want to know your top 4.
Okay.
Top 5.
Yeah. So and perhaps I could have been a little more imaginative, but I'm pretty firm there right now. I have the tier one, which is for me it's Devontae Adams, then Tyra Kill, then Stephon Diggs, and just a really brief rundown on why they're there. Adams is coming off the best PPR season by receiver ever. I think it's silly to not rank him there. Just I mean like just like because he was that good. Like he's obviously like gonna regress, but like that's the pinnacle of what you want. So like why not chase it? I guess. Tyreek Hill at number 2, just a crazy touchdown floor, and like I mean, would we be shocked if he gets like 20 touchdowns? I mean, like it's possible. And just I'm a little bit lower on Diggs than Mark. I mean, like ranking wise, yes, but like spot wise, like and like ranking is like overall, I'm a little bit lower because I'm just kind of wary that Josh Allen regresses from last year because he was not a good quarterback coming into the league and a couple years ago, and then suddenly he's like elite. I mean, like for the sake of fantasy, like I hope he's great, but there's just a chance that he regresses, and if that happens, then Diggs is gonna suffer in terms of volume and efficiency. So I think he's a little bit less safe. I think Devontae and Tyreek are incredibly safe, locks to be top 5. And Diggs is a little bit less safe, but I mean still pretty safe. And then I'm really in a tier of himself because he obviously has this insane ceiling. But once again, this is his first year being the guy, and I know this is like a weird argument for some people, but really is really skinny, and he's gonna get a bunch of targets. And last year we saw a guy like Deontay Johnson who couldn't handle that. He was a skinny guy getting fed targets, and he gets hurt, and that's a possibility. If really is healthy for 16 games, I'd probably have him over a guy like Stephon Diggs. But just knowing that he's gonna get some unprecedented volume for a guy his stature, just makes me a little bit lower on him. And then past that, I have no problem with like Hopkins and then DK Metcalf and the guys like that. But I mean, it's a pretty clear top 3, and then a 4th, and then a big drop off for me. So
yeah, I agree. But I would be happy to like pair any of those 4 together.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like a nice little duo where everyone else is going running back to pair up. Give me those wide receivers paired up, and I'll draft running back for the next 5 rounds.
Exactly.
And with that said, like some people might say, "What the hell? Like you're crazy to pass up on running backs there, and then take 5 scrub running backs? What are you like?"
No,
they're not scrubs, and yes, you're gonna have wide receiver depth as well, because you know who you can have at pick 100 at wide receiver 39 as your wide receiver 3 in this scenario.
Who?
Antonio Brown.
One of the best ever. You know.
And then if you want a couple names that are going later than that I would take as my wide receiver 3 and be totally happy with it in this scenario. Darnell Mooney, wide receiver 50. Jalen Waddle, wide receiver 42.
Yep.
Or Corey Davis, wide receiver 45.
Oh, yeah.
All of them are very viable wide receiver 3s. You do not need to play them at all.
Nope.
Only in bye weeks, or if one of your guys get hurt.
Exactly.
You're probably not needing to play them. You know, if you have to play them, your team's probably sunk anyways.
Yep.
You know, like this strategy is built around going on 2 heavy wide receivers and them staying healthy throughout the season, which is a much better chance than 2 running backs staying healthy.
Exactly. And not only are injury rates lower, but like straight up bust rates. Like if you're healthy, you're more likely to produce as a receiver than a running back, I believe. So, I mean that's great. I know you've always kind of been the like wide receiver early guy, but just talking it through has necessarily like converted me. But now I can see the light. There's a very clear and solid argument to, if you're able to grab a guy like Calvin Ridley or DeAndre Hopkins after Devontae Adams, to just do that and then just bank on 40 points per game from those guys combined, and just plugging in Michael Carter and Nyheim Hines if you have to. You know, it's much safer.
With those 2 guys, there's weeks where you're gonna get 80 points out of those.
Ridiculous, absurd, right?
That's your ceiling. And how many pairs of running backs can you say that about?
Christian McCaffrey and who? I mean, DeAndre Swift, not happening.
No.
Yeah, it's impossible. It really is, because wide receivers get points from chunk plays, and when you're drafting the RB20 after you draft Christian McCaffrey, you're not getting chunk plays. It just doesn't happen.
Right. Don't be afraid to draft wide receivers early. That's the note, my friends.
Exactly. Well, that being said, we've talked about Devontae, we've talked about Calvin Ridley, Stephon Diggs, everyone. Who should be the first pass catcher taken? We have 10 minutes left, by the way, on Zoom. It's kind of, I just got it again, but we'll be fine. That's the last thing. So, when you're looking at a guy like Travis Kelce, who we've said is just the unicorn of tight ends, one of the GOATs, just incredible. Should he be the first pass catcher taken, or should it be Adams or Tyreek or Ridley or someone else? Because I'm really torn on it myself. I don't know what to say.
You know, it's the first time I've ever even thought about it.
Yeah.
So I guess the way for me to break this tie, because that's what it is when it comes to volume and efficiency, it's a tie between Kelce and these top pass catchers.
Yeah.
He's always going to get fed. He's going to be used in the red zone, and he's an intricate part of the offense. The difference is the ceiling,
yep.
and yardage. We saw Tyra Kill break 200 yards how many times in his career?
In like 2 quarters versus the Bucks.
You know? Kelce doesn't do that.
No.
So there you go.
I
go with the ceiling.
Yeah, and I had this decision in a money draft, and I took Devontae Adams as the first pass catcher over Travis Kelce at pick 8. And looking back, I'm not too disappointed about it, because well, there's this like worst stat. I don't know how accurate it is, but there was this worst stat that was like this all encompassing stat, and it said that Devontae was more valuable, like when he was healthy, points per game, than Kelce was, and this was in their peak ceilings. So I mean, that didn't say everything for me, but knowing that at their best, the top pass catcher, the top receiver is more valuable than tight end, I mean, that's kind of enough for me. And another thing is, people say that when you draft tight end, it's like you're set, but I think your roster is less flexible, because then you can't take a tight end if it's given to you. Like if there's a Jonnu that drops or an Adam Troutman, you can't take them. And if you go receiver, you can take those value tight ends. So not only are you trying to figure out, hey, is he more valuable for my team than these guys? It's like, hey, am I gonna have a problem later with like roster construction with the guy like that? Because I mean, then you're locked in. Like, you don't want a second tight end if you have Kelce. Like, it's just a waste. So yeah.
Right. Being a Kelce owner in redraft before, that is exactly what happens. You run into these scenarios where you're trying to decide between 4 wide receiver 3s, which 2 am I trying to play this week, instead of just having that locked in wide receiver and locked in tight end. No matter who it is, you're always locking in the tight end. It's not like you gotta fumble over who am I going to start at tight end,
right?
Outside of streaming somebody, but even then it's not the same as having to drop someone on your deciding between 4 players on your bench.
Yeah,
it's you gain positional advantage with Kelce, but like you also have to hit on your wide receiver and running back picks. If you miss on 1 or 2, you're dead. You're sunk.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to compete with 2 wide receiver 4s or 2 wide receiver 3s every week.
Yeah.
The differential between those players and the wide receiver 1 that you missed out on is much bigger than Kelce and the other tight ends.
Exactly.
Score touchdowns.
Yeah. And
get a tight end who scores touchdowns.
I think that's what it comes down to, honestly. I prefer Adams. If I was ranking pass catchers, I'd probably go Adams, Kelce. I mean, he's close, but I mean, there's an argument for Tyra Kill over him. There's an argument for Steph Diggs over him, and I could side with the argument if it was given to me strong enough. So, I mean, I think that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I mean, with that, yeah, Kelsey is still great to own. He's still a great player.
Yeah.
He's not going to hurt your team outside of injury. So, take him if you want. Just understand that you have to hit on your wide receivers and running backs and have plenty of depth. You can't, if you go with Kelsey, you cannot draft a quarterback before the 10th round.
Nope.
You can't. You have to go depth all the way through.
Or you're screwed. I mean, yeah, it's true. Kelsey is a great pick, but he severely limits your roster construction from that point on, and it's the entire draft because you're getting him at pick 8, pick 9. So, yeah.
Much more liable to find yourself in a position where you feel like I have to take this type of position right now, otherwise I'm going to miss out.
Yeah.
You take a player like that.
Right.
Instead of you can't let the draft fall to you as much.
Yeah, and I agree.
But with that said, if you want to take Kelsey in any of those top 5 pass catchers, it's okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And you're not gonna get in trouble for that at all because he's still probably tight end 1, and he's gonna win you a lot of weeks. But at the end of the day, it's just roster construction and ceiling points per game wise. It's just not there with a guy like Devontae Adams, Tyra Kill, Calvin Ridley, something like that. So yeah.
Yep. So you want to keep going? You want to get into another one and talk about some other teams, or are you getting tired?
I think I need a little more research for our next one to be honest.
Okay.
But I mean I really appreciate you sticking around for all these because this will probably make 2 or 3 episodes. So.
Good.
Yeah. Well, do you have any closing words for the audience? That sounds corny.
Just don't be afraid to draft those top tier wide receivers early. That's all. If you're gonna take anything away from listening to us today, that's what I want you to take away.
Exactly.
Because,
yep.
Those running backs are gonna get hurt, man.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna get hurt. I love Dalvin Cook. He's gonna get hurt.
Yeah.
Look at CMC, man. He was number 1 overall pick last year. Hurt all season.
3 games.
And he's still gonna come back and be the first overall pick.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Once.
Yeah.
Why?
Once you've been burned, I mean, at a certain point, it's like, fuck it. Let me just take all these safe pass catchers that have higher weekly ceilings than all these running backs too. You can conceivably score 70 points from Tyra Kill plus Nuke Hopkins. It's possible, but that's not happening for running backs. The 5th scoring running back is lower than the 5th scoring receiver most weeks because these receivers can break off big chunk plays for 80-yard touchdowns, and that happens less than running back or more than running backs. It's just a fact. They have higher ceilings weekly, and they're less fragile from an injury standpoint. So I agree with that. Well,
and I can't wait for CMC to come out and average 18.5 points a game. And everyone call him a bum because he's not averaging over 30.
Oh my god! And yeah, and then there's gonna be receivers that average 22, and it's like, well, we got you in the 2nd round. It's like they're better. Receivers are better. I think that's gonna be the title is receivers are better. That's what it is.
Hit him with it.
Yeah. Well, we have a minute left on this, so I think I'm gonna stop recording and we can just talk for a second. But